Hello, my cup fillers, and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. If you are a people pleaser, if you frequently get burnt out, if you get adrenal fatigue, if you always feel like you're giving but not giving back to yourself enough, this episode is absolutely for you. You may have recently heard me talk about the fact that I've created an ebook, an absolutely free 33-page ebook on my website on 7 steps to protect your energy and fill up your cup, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and I want you to make yourself a priority in 2026. This ebook is a practical guide for giving back to yourself and protecting your energy to become an energetic match for the life that you desire. I highly recommend you to go and download that book and to really work through it. Grab a pen, print it out, grab a pen and fill the book out, work through it. Over the last 10 years or so, these habits, these practices have truly up-leveled my life, and I want them to do the same for you. Still want you to go download it, but we're going to touch on these topics today just to really drive that fact home, and something that you can listen to when you're on your walk, so you're driving, but still go get that ebook. I talk about a lot that I feel someone my age, older, not so much the younger generation, have grown up in a society where a good woman was deemed as someone who was selfless and giving and always sacrificing her needs for her family. I know as a mum now that there is sacrifice involved, but I just don't believe that I have to completely be put on the back burner. I believe in delegating, reaching out for help, and taking those pockets of time to fill up my cup, because I'm absolutely useless as a mum, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend, as a woman, if I feel depleted. Now, being depleted isn't just about having ashwagandha and doing the things. You have to give time to yourself and take care of your needs. And I think if you don't write them down, if you don't write things down and have a plan, you're kind of just firing aimlessly. So I really think it's important, especially at the beginning of the year, to sit down and talk about what's important to you and how you can give back to yourself. And I know this episode and this ebook can do that for you. When you're on a plane, you're always told, put on your oxygen mask before you assist others. Let that be your mantra for life. Take care of your needs so that you can be the best version and show up as the best version, not just for yourself, but for everybody else. So giving back to yourself does everybody a favor. And you may have heard a recent episode I did with Jordana Levine about manifesting. And it's so interesting how her book about manifesting, so much of it comes back to the self and taking care of the self. And it made me really realize that everything I listen to, finance, career, manifestation, it's not, self-love isn't just loving yourself so you can find your ideal mate. It truly is the foundation for everything. You can't build a house on a shitty foundation. It has to be solid. So taking care of yourself is the first place to start for everything. The number one thing that I like to start with is to assess your relationships on a regular basis, not once every 10 years. As you grow, certain people in your life may not be the right fit for you. And you've heard me say, this is not about judgment. This is not about, there's too much finger pointing in society. That person's toxic, that person's toxic. There are a lot of toxic people, but maybe not as many as we're talking about. Maybe some people are just not the right fit for you or the right energetic match for you. Now, you've also heard me say you're a product of your environment. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So it's really, really important to look at who's filling up your cup, who's adding to your life, who's adding to your energy, and who's draining it, like the Dementors in Harry Potter. So really let that sink in and look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with and sort of think about what your values are and what you're looking to strive. If you're looking to up your career or your finances, are you always around people who have no money, who make poor choices, who are always just verbalizing the lack in their life? Now, people are going through a tough time, and it's really good to act from compassion and empathy, but you're also going to absorb that. So you need to think, is that something that I want to be absorbing into my psyche? And my personal belief is that, like people think the most dangerous people to have you around you are violent people. And that's very obvious danger. But I think that covert danger of those sort of narcissistic people, or people that constantly but subtly critique you, guilt trip you, shame you, that is such a low vibration for you. That really detracts from your life. So if you have people like that in your life, can you talk to them about their behavior and how it impacts you? Or can you take a little step back and have a little bit more space for you and perhaps spend more time with some more positive people? I don't know if you've read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. He always talks about My husband loves that book. He's not a reader, but he loves that book, and he got me a copy of it. And Napoleon Hill talks about having a network of people around you. So if you're striving for business success, you should create like a little network where you catch up regularly and bounce ideas off each other. That is such a brilliant idea. Community is so important, but community of like-minded people traveling in the same direction as you is so, so important. And to decide who are the good people in your life and who are the bad people, or who are the people adding to your life and who are the people detracting. I have one super, super simple thing. What? Two. One is, how do you feel after you've spent time in them? And the other, this is very telling. What face do you make? What energy do you feel in your gut when you see their name pop up on your phone? Do you light up like, oh, I can't wait to hear from this person? Or is it, oh, what do they want now? It might sound black or white, but I think in that instance, your body's energy is very telling, and you can't fake that natural instinct. If you are of my vintage, I have discussed this so many times, so I don't know if you heard me say this. If you are of my vintage, you would have watched Sex and the City, undoubtedly, growing up. You might remember in season 6 when Carrie dated Berger, who I hated. He's a good actor, but I just hate that character. He was just a wet blanket, and they were both writers. He had poor success at the time. He was failing. She was succeeding, getting her $25,000 check, her advance from France. And he could not be happy for her because of how he saw himself. So it was just a very, I would say, emotionally immature relationship. He just had no emotional maturity. And you know, when you met those people, this is the worst. They seem good on paper, but they're always making you second guess. Like, are they happy? What are they thinking? I could not go back to dating. Ugh. And he broke up with her. He was on again, off again. And she said, she's sitting in the coffee shop with the 4 girls and the 3 other girls, and she's sitting there all stooped over, and she's like, I just want to know what he's thinking. And Miranda, very wise, said, how about you? What do you want? Instead of thinking about him. But as you get older, you realize that Samantha was the wisest character in the show. And she said, you know what I think? Don't do this. And she's like, I'm sad. What do you want me to do? And then she articulated this so perfectly. As far as I'm concerned, the test of a good relationship is, are you like this or like this? And the girl stared at her, and she's spot on. It's that simple. Is your energy high? Are your vibes high, or are they low? Is the behavior of that person making you feel shit about yourself? It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's a partner, a boss, a colleague, a friend, a family member. Energy is energy. You can't fake it. If it's bringing you down, you cannot succeed at life. So preserve your energy, take care of yourself, and remove yourself when you need to, and regularly assess the relationships in your life. Number 2 is set clear boundaries. Boundaries are so essential for your mental health, for your emotional health, and for your energy. And as I said, we grew up in a time, in a place where saying no is offensive, and it's not. No is a complete sentence. I have found that as I've gotten older, the more I've reinforced boundaries and the less apologetic I've been about them, the less offended people are. So I have another theory. I have many theories, but my theory is that women over-explain. Myself, previously, not so much now. I think I've really curbed that. And a lot of the women around me, around my age, over-explain when they can't go to something. So when someone invites you to something and you're doing this long, long explanation, it's not necessary. If you have something else on, or if you are simply drained of energy, or if you have a really heavy period, or if you feel like shit and don't want to show up in the world, you don't have to go. You don't have to go. You don't have to give an explanation, and you absolutely don't have to apologize. What you can say instead is, thank you so much for including me. That sounds like an amazing event. That sounds like a great day. Unfortunately, I can't attend, but I look forward to catching up next time. That is a great, polite, my husband will be like, no, I can't go. To me, it's a bit gruff. I like to be a bit friendlier. But I also think that it's not our fault as women, because I think a lot of pressure has been placed on us. And I have seen that, and not so much from men. I've stated this before, more from other women, particularly older, my age or older, not the younger women. The expectations on us are higher. And that's not fair. I know my husband, no one says anything to him. Like his response is, he always says to me, can't go. Why are you getting upset? Why ever explain? But no one ever says anything to him. When they see him, they're excited to see him and they hug him. But I'll get like cold shoulders and guilt trips if I can't go to something. So the reason, take this pressure off yourself. The reason you over-explain is because people have made you feel like you have had to over-explain. But we're not going to go with that narrative anymore. We don't have to. We are taking the reins back of our life and we are dictating what works for us, and we don't have to explain. And the right people will get it, and the people who make you feel shit about it, it's not you, it's them. They don't have to be in your life. So don't over-explain, don't apologize, and don't go to something when it's not aligned. Every time I've gone to something, and I'm talking something I might have been looking forward to with my best friends, but if I'm in a low mental state, I get very, very bad PMS, which I'm suspecting might be PMDD. What's it called? PMDD? Something like that. I go look into it. I can't show up because when I show up, not only do I sort of get in my head and have a worse time, but I poison others with my low mood. So my new thing is that when I'm feeling low, I stay in, I lick my wounds, I rest, I restore my energy, and I make it up to people when my energy's better. So again, not something I did when I was younger, but something I do now, but that's up to you to dictate that. Number 3, this is a very happy one. Date and romance yourself. This is something that is so much easier to do when you're single. I recognize that, but it's something that you should keep up when you're in relationships. I love to spend time by myself and not just doing chores and doing, like gym workouts and meditation and yoga. That's all great. But dating myself, taking myself out on a solo shopping trip to a nice cafe, to the movies. I love going to the movies. I said I was going to go see The Housemaid, and I still haven't gone. I'm really hoping to go tomorrow when I'm recording this. When I was single, I always seem to have like about a year gap. Oh, no, sometimes I've had a little bit of straight into the next relationship. But after big relationships, I've had about a year and a half to myself. And I've sort of rediscovered myself by dating myself. I used to do years ago, I think this is before I had social media on my phone, so it was not a big deal if I left my phone at home. But on a Sunday, every 4 weeks, I would leave my phone at home, get a backpack with a stack of books and yummy snacks, and go to the botanical gardens in the city, which are beautiful. I think I would do it like spring or autumn when the weather's nice, and sit there for hours. And I would sit under a tree and read and snack, have a little nap, go for a walk, and then repeat in a new location under a new tree. I would come home so rejuvenated. And it is so hard to do as a mum. And I'm witnessing some of my friends now whose kids are 3 and up starting to really implement that. And it is making me so happy and so proud. My friend Ellen's listening to this episode. She's really, back into dancing. She was a wonderful dancer when we were young. Really doing stuff for herself that makes me so proud as a woman to watch other friends really give back to themselves. And I think there's an element of recognizing the season of life that you're in. It's not the season of life I'm in. I'm currently trying to fall pregnant with baby number 2, have an 18-month-old, trying to build 2 businesses. I recognize that it's harder to do that. But what I'm doing is taking those pockets of time for myself when I can, but I'm also actively, mentally preparing a life for myself. I have this thing in my head when I'm 45. However, I keep seeing the number 44 flash on my screen all the time. I'm 42 at the moment. That's really going to be the time when I can really start rebuilding Steph again. But I'm so grateful of the life I'm in now. I will never see tiny little babies curling up next to me in bed again. So I'm really recognizing the season of life that I'm in, but planning for when Steph has her, re-emergence, let's say. But dating and romancing yourself is super, super important. And I always used to say when I used to encourage my friends for self-love, if you know what I mean, that you should never expect anyone else to love you if you don't love yourself. And it's the same even with intimacy. I always used to say to friends, you should never expect a man to please you if you don't know how to please yourself. So any sort of relationship with the self, I'm here for. Maybe try making a list of things that you haven't done by yourself. So I've traveled alone, I've gone to the movies by myself, I've gone out to eat by myself. The only thing I hadn't done was a music concert, but I did that to a Delta concert last year. I spared my husband having to go to another Delta concert, so I went by myself. Good time. It's fine. Like, you didn't really talk during the show anyway, so it's fine. And I especially think that with the movies. That is the ultimate place to go by yourself because you really can't talk during a movie. And if you do, please stop. I hate those people. I'm the shusher. Number 4 is establish a morning and night routine. This is essential. And again, being a parent, sometimes that doesn't happen. So I like to wake up between 4 and 5. I go to bed early. And sometimes, like last night, my son I don't know what's wrong with him. I think it's the heat because he just cried about every hour. So I had to allow myself to sleep in this morning or I just would have been useless. So I missed certain things for myself and I felt very frustrated this morning because to me, when I don't get that time by myself to do my not just self-care routines, but self-development where I'm really writing things out for myself and journaling and meditating, I feel like I'm not in control of the day or my life. Someone else is in control and I'm just like along for the ride. So this is super important and it's going to look different for everybody else. So my morning routine will include, what I need to do is not go on my phone, but I do that a lot purely because I wake up a bit groggy and I find that looking at the phone wakes me up, but it's not great to do that. So do what suits you. But as soon as I get up, I then don't look at my phone. Then I will listen to, do you remember I had Daniel Tolson on the show with the frequency? I listen to my personalized frequency while I put the dishes away. Then I go on YouTube and I watch very motivational things. I like to watch things about tapping into the feminine energy, manifestation. They're high vibe. If you wake up and put Sunrise or the Today Show on, as much as I love those people, the news is terrifying. The news is negative. The news is overwhelming. And it's not normal for one person to absorb this much news 24/7. It's not healthy. And what it does is it dysregulates your nervous system. And I don't want to start my day like that. So I want to absorb very positive things. Sometimes I might not put YouTube on. Sometimes it might be silence and listen to the birds. And sometimes it might be music. But whatever feels right for you in that moment or in that day. What do I do then? Then I read and journal. So I read, I think I've mentioned this before, my fictions before bed, just as my little entertainment and enjoyment. But in the morning, I read my nonfiction. At the moment, for the last year, I've had so many wonderful guests who have had their own books that I've been reading those. I'm reading the most wonderful book at the moment about Ayurveda alchemy with a guest coming up, Dr. Harmony Robinson-Stagg. It is such a great book. It's about tapping into your higher self. And I am feeling like my cup is so filled reading this book. It is fantastic. Can't wait for that episode. Be sure to tune back in for that. Then I will grab my book and do some journaling. And as I said, years ago I did the Dear Diary thing, but I didn't do journaling until recently. And I love it. I just let the pen go where it goes. So a lot of the time it's gratitude. A lot of the time it's affirmations. Sometimes was it this morning or last night, just complete verbal diarrhea of me just getting everything out onto paper and just brain dumping, and it feels great. But sometimes it's releasing, but sometimes it's really like motivating myself. So I love doing that. Then I do just a 10 or 15-minute meditation. If you don't know where to start, jump on my YouTube channel. I've got 2 at the moment. I plan to have a new one every fortnight, one on abundance, one on dealing with anxiety. Just guided meditations with beautiful music. Love to do that. Chakra balancing meditations. I think that will be the next one I do. Love to do those. And the absolute biggest life hack that my wonderful biohacking guests got me into was having sunlight, natural sunlight on my face. Now, I wake up so early, the sun's not up, so it filters through my balcony somewhere between 7 and 8, and I stand on the balcony, close my eyes, and it is like a massive hit. I don't have caffeine, but I imagine that's what it feels like for people who have their first cup of coffee. It's like a hug for the soul, but I am so motivated and positive. It wakes you up. It's something to do with your circadian rhythms. I think getting you into that's why you're not meant to look at your screens at night, because it's meant to be dark. So your body getting ready for sleep and restoration. And in the morning, the sunlight wakes you up and kicks you into gear. So if you're not seeing any light, depending on where your kitchen and your home is situated, your body doesn't know it's time to kick into gear. So the coffee might be fooling it, but the sunlight is the natural jack into gear. So definitely implement that into your morning routine. Then I will do a workout. So it depends on the day, depends on the cycle, the day of my cycle. I might start with a yoga sometimes, and then it might be a Pilates workout. It might be a strength. It might be a cardio. It might just be some slow distance running, or it might be some heavy weights. So changes all the time. And I like to do sometimes Leo sleeps 2 hours at lunchtime, and sometimes that'll be I'll work and he'll nap here. But if it's under 30 degrees, I'll go for a walk because that is my mental health. And I might do it in silence, or I might listen to a podcast, and he just naps. I take him to this park on the swing and he naps while I walk, and it's so restorative. A nighttime routine, it's very brief for me. It's more at the moment, it's more around getting Leo ready for bed. Then I read to him. Then I do a little bit of reading. I'd love to do meditation and stuff before bed, but it's not for me, to be honest. I'm low energy at night, so I don't want to be structured. I just want to be relaxed. And to me, just jumping into bed, reading to him, then watching him fall asleep, then me reading my books, that's all I need. I love that so much. So decide what works best for you and establish a regular morning and night routine. And also understand that not every day is the same. And some days it's not going to happen, and that's okay. Have some grace with yourself. Number 5, I think I touched on it, ask for help and delegate. We certainly were made to think that we can do everything. And I am the primary caregiver to my son, but I can't do everything. My husband has him out at the moment, and you have to reach out. I have to reach out to my parents every now and then. I'm looking into childcare this year, and you can't do everything by yourself. So look, I will keep this brief. Ask for help and delegate. If you're really struggling, there's always help out there. And if you're just running out of time, delegate it to some family members. You are amazing, but you're not Superwoman, and you don't have to be. So you don't need to take on everything. And sometimes when we take on everything by ourselves, you become a bit of a martyr, and you end up being resentful to other people, but it might not be their fault because you didn't tell them what you needed. So delegate where you can. Number 6, touched on this with YouTube, flood your brain with positive content. I know a lot of us like to watch the true crime docos. And I used to listen to true crime podcasts, and I absolutely don't anymore. I listen to things on manifestation, mental wellness, career, finance. When I was listening to things on women getting raped and murdered, how do you think my energy was? And it's not saying that I want to turn a blind eye to the seriousness of things that are in this world, but I can't, as one person, take all that upon my psyche and my energy. It's not healthy. So you are a product of your environment. So don't just assess your relationships. You need to look at what content you're consuming. Have a look regularly at who you follow on social media. Is it adding to your life? And maybe, the really fit influencers years ago worked for you and it motivated you. But maybe when you're at home between breastfeeds and you see them really fit with their abs, maybe it makes you feel like shit. So maybe you need to just mute or unfollow for now and refollow when the time is right. And as I said, sometimes it's just seasons of life. Sometimes that's the old you, and that's not what interests you now. Maybe now you're more into a slower life, a gentler life, or more tapping into your feminine energy. I know that's something that I'm going through at the moment. And I was loud music in the morning, hard workouts at 6 a.m., no freaking way could I do that now. That I like a slow morning of tapping into my feminine energy. So I just remembered something I wrote in the ebook was when you were young. So I was born in the 80s. So I basically only remember the 90s, but we had the one big brown wooden looking TV where you had to turn the dial. And me and my brother would, it was a bit of a rock, paper, scissors of who would have to get up and change the channel when MASH came on after The Simpsons. After The Bold and the Beautiful, before The Simpsons. And, you had that one TV, or we had one little one in the kitchen. You would hear the 5 p.m. news or the 6 p.m. news. That was it. Now it is 24/7 news coverage. You think about lockdown with Gladys. I liked Gladys. She gave us that cool bag with all the baby stuff in it. But every day at 11 a.m. you'd log in to see how many more cases of COVID there were in your area. Oh my God, the doom and gloom that I bought into in that. And it was scary. We didn't know what was happening, so we looked to our leaders. But this is what I always talk about in society. Be very careful where you place your attention to, because my personal belief, am I going to get cancelled by someone for saying this, is that with the medical industry, people who are unwell are customers. With the government, people who are in fear look to their leaders. I'm not saying every government, I'm just saying in general. With news programs, they're up there being very self-righteous, accepting their low gears for their coverage of things. They profit, not just benefit, they profit by you clicking in, tuning in to disasters, to hear about what's happening with disasters. So people who live in fear are very easy to control, very easy to influence, and very easy to sell things to. So I'll leave that with you. You choose how you want your day and your life to go. But for me, I need to be dictating what I'm absorbing, and it can't be doom and gloom 24/7 because I am an empath, and that changes not only my energy, but then it changes my motivation for how I can achieve things and in my career and my success. So have a look at your social media, have a look at all the content, the podcasts, the news, the TV, the movies, anything that you're consuming, and just choose wisely with what fits where you're at in your life at the moment. Number 7, the final one. This might very well be the most crucial one that I think gets missed a lot. Now, I didn't touch on things like community and all that. This is more for protecting your energy, but community is very important. However, the most important thing to me is play. Play. I am so structured. I've always been, there's two versions of me. One is very structured and very serious and very tenacious, but the other part of me is very in touch with her childlike self. But when I'm stressed, when I'm overworking, I lose touch with the childlike self. And when I'm in touch with my inner child, I manifest the best things in my life. It's because I'm on an energetic match for good things. And the quickest, easiest way to do that is to play, to do something with no gain or purpose. And we just don't do that enough. Remember when you were little, I touched on this in the ebook, when the loveliest sound is when your friends would like call or knock on your door and ask your mum if Steph would come out and play. Like, adults don't do that enough. I want my friends to show up and say to my husband, can Steph come out and play? We're gonna go do hopscotch or something. But definitely that was one of the things I was looking forward to. I listened to an old episode when I was pregnant, and I don't normally listen to my old episodes. It was for a purpose, to look something. It was my beautiful friend Harmony, if you remember her on this show. And we were talking about, I was pregnant and I was saying I was really looking forward to getting in touch with my inner child and sort of reliving my childhood through Leo's eyes. And I definitely have been doing that, like the blowing of the bubbles and last night, twice in the last week, we've gone out to the airport and watched the planes take off and, grabbed an ice cream. And I just don't do stuff like that as an adult. So play is so important. There's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to do in life, and it's to check in with yourself and ask yourself, how am I feeling? What do I want? But ask yourself, what would feel good to me in this moment right now? So as I said, I'm so structured and always trying to achieve things. But I think you should blank out, this is structured, but blank out time in your diary where you do nothing. Nothing. Seinfeld was one of the most successful shows in the world because it was a show about nothing. So be a successful person and sometimes do nothing. When you go to the gym, it is scientific fact that your muscle growth comes in the rest after the workout, not in the workout. Now, it is the same for you when you sleep. Your organs restore. So if you're not getting that sleep, if you go to sleep after 11 p.m., your liver's not restoring. Like, it's simple things like that. So it's the same for you and your mental health and your psyche and your energy. It only recharges during rest and play, and not just sleep, rest and play, R&R. So take some time, blank out your diary, do some fun things. If you've got kids in your life, go play with them, leave the phone and be in the moment. I hope this episode was helpful to you. I urge you to go and download that book. It is completely free and it will up-level your life. I want you to know just how special you are. Just being you, just being born, not achieving anything. And whatever you're doing now, I want you to know that you're doing a great job. You are doing a great job with the tools in your toolkit. But you are a human being. You are not a machine. And even machines need to reboot. And I want you to do things to reboot, to give back to yourself. Take some time to regularly fill up your cup. Reach out to me with any questions you have on socials and DMs. I am very happy to reply to everybody. I thank you for being here, and I hope you do many things in the next week to fill up your cup. I'll catch you in the next episode.